Hi, I'm Kenneth Wynn, designer of PolleNation. In this video, I'm going to kind of give you an idea of the setup and how to play, preferably probably a round just to kind of make it quick. PolleNation I designed mainly because I went on Facebook and was, wasting time like Facebook does. And I saw some article about how bees are dying off because of various things in nature. So I kind of thought, hey, you know what, I want to make a game about pollinating flowers and the flowers dying off and making it harder for you to advance your hive and that sort of thing. PolleNation's a game for 2 to 4 players. It takes roughly about 60 minutes to play. It's a pick up and deliver game. Let me get into setup. Alright, first setup. Each player will get a player mat with the labeled skills, and I'll explain those in a second. The 2 bees they start their hive with. They also get 3 more bees that are advanced bees that they can get while moving up their worker track. Those kind of go off to the side for now until you unlock them. You also get 2 trait cards, and you get to pick which one you would like. This trait in particular, I can exhaust it and remove a black budding cube from one flower and remove a black budding cube from any flower in the meadow, which is pretty sweet. And another one that allows me to look at another player's objective card, and I can exhaust this to discard mine to draw a new one. Of these 2, I think we're going to start the game with the black budding cube removal. Also, you get 2 objectives. All the objectives, not all of them, most of them have you trying to fill up 2 of your particular skills. It's a race game where whoever the first person is to fill them up wins. In this particular example, I have one that I have to fill up strength and speed, or I have to fill up traits and workers. I think I'm going to go with the traits and workers. The other one just goes back to the supply. Now, as for the board, it is the meadow. This is what this board is called. It's a meadow. Each player has a hive. There's 4 hives in the game. You put your 2 starting bees that match the card on your hive, and then there's particular spots in the board that tells you where flowers bud from. As you see, each budding or each flower spot has a particular amount of budding cubes it gets. The flowers on the outside of the meadow take a little longer, and the flowers on the very inside take longer. But closer to the hive and a little on the outside take less time. So these ones have 4. These ones like here have 3. The ones here have 2. And that's what these black cubes are. And after you fill up the board, then you take the remaining flower tiles and make up the supply. Now there's 5 different colors of flowers that go into the meadow. There's blue and there's a yellow. There you go. And each flower has a different number of pollen cubes on it. When a flower buds, it gets that particular amount of budding cubes, and each of the cubes correspond with the color of the flower. So there's blue, green, like a transparent white, red, and yellow. Now, the reason why you want to go out to the flowers and get the pollen is to bring it back to your hive and fill up traits. Now there's 5 different traits. You can, once you start a trait or a skill with a colored cube, you have to continue on. There's traits that allow you to skew that a little bit, but to explain what the different skills are, the workers is quite simply the number of workers you have. You start the game with 2, and then as you fill up slots in it, you can go up to 3 and 4 and 5. Your speed is how many hexes you can move. Like right now I can only move 2, but as you move up, you can move faster. Your carry capacity is how many pollen you can carry at one time on each bee. So you start with 2, and as you go up you can get more. Strength. Strength is a little different because the way strength works is, let's say her bee was here and she collected a couple cubes. I can use whatever speed value is, say I have, because you start off 2, say I want to strength attack this guy. So I would move, you would have to be able to move into their spot and push them back from whatever direction you're moving in. And then whatever your strength value is, that's how many cubes they lose. So in this instance, they would lose 1 cube. I would pick which one I want them to lose, it would be returned to the supply. Now, if the bee was unexhausted, they become stunned and get exhausted. So you would signify that by turning the card sideways. But if they were exhausted and you used a strength attack against them, you made them mad. So now they become unexhausted. The last skill is traits. You have a particular number of trait cards that you're allowed to have. You're allowed to have 5 throughout the game, and the traits do various things. Like there's hive traits that just go next to your hive board, and they do a bunch of different things. Like this one in particular, it allows you to remove a black budding cube, which we just explained. They just go kind of next to your board. There's also traits that are called, of course I need to find one, they're called bee traits. They equip to a bee. So if this bee had this trait, it would just equip to the card. It says, this particular one says, the bee gets, that this is equipped to, gets +1 speed. You could also, as an action, exhaust this to give it to another bee. It remains exhausted until the budding phase when everything unexhausts. To go over the phases of the turn real quick, the first thing you do is the budding phase. And in the budding phase, you remove 1 black cube from each of the flowers in the meadow. If you remove the last black cube from a flower, the flower flips and is now bloomed. You put however many pollen cubes of that particular color on the flower, and then now you're good to go. You do that for the entire meadow. Anything that blooms, you flip and put the number of pollen cubes necessary on them. First thing too is everything, all your cards unexhaust, all your bees unexhaust, and then you would remove the pollen cubes. The next phase of the turn is your actions phase, and everybody gets to, in turn order, you would get to exhaust 1 card or bee and do whatever you wish to do, whether it be move or pollinate or bring pollen back home or use strength attacks. Like, you could also use this bee, move him, exhaust this in your next turn to give it to him, and then move him. After everybody is passed, you would go into the wind phase, and that's the last phase of the turn. The wind phase, you would grab the die, and on this die, there's 2 1 sides, a blank side, a 3 side, a 2 side, and a rain side. Now, the wind corresponds with the spots on the board. Whenever you roll the particular wind, if you roll a 1, you would take 1 cube off of every bloomed flower, 1 pollen cube off of every bloomed flower in the particular spots. So the 1s would be here. If you get a 2, you do both the 1s and the 2s. If you do 3, you do the entire meadow. Now, why that's important is because if you take the last pollen cube off of a flower, it actually kills the flower, and the flower would go just next to the board to signify that there's 1 blue flower now dead. It can get to the point where a lot of flowers die, and that actually makes life a little difficult, so you have to kind of be aggressive to get the flowers you need. The last side of the die is the rain side. The way the rain side works is it actually goes through the entire meadow, and it helps flowers bloom by removing 1 of the budding cubes on it. And again, you do the same thing where if you remove the last one, then you bloom the flower and put the number of pollen cubes necessary on it. You just continue going round after round until 1 person has reached their objective to win the game. Now we will show you a sample round of PolleNation. Alright, we are about 3/4 of the way through a game of PolleNation. As you see, we have all decided to go in different directions. If you remember, my card was I need to fill those 2 traits, and as you see, I'm working my way towards it. Her board looks like so, and I'm assuming workers is one of the things she's trying to fill up, and maybe speed, maybe even traits. I don't know. And my son's, as you see, his speed's almost all the way up, so I'm assuming maybe that's one of his. I'm not quite sure what the other is just yet. He has a couple kind of going up that way, so I guess we will see. First thing we do on a turn is the budding phase. What you do on the budding phase is each flower that is not bloomed yet, you remove a budding cube from. If it removes the last one, you flip them. When you remove the last one and flip it, it tells you on the top how many pollen cubes go on it. Like on this particular yellow flower, you would get 2 yellow pollen cubes. So you would put 2 boink, cubes just like that. You go through that for the entire board. Any that get flipped, you flip and put new pollen on them. And then after you do that, we start the action phase. And since she is the first player, she gets the first action. What are you doing there? Your strength attacking me? That wasn't very nice. So since she strength attacked me, I get knocked back a space. I lose my pollen equal to whatever her strength is, which so happens to be 1, but she has the strength bee with a trait that allows her to increase it by another 1. So unfortunately,
by 2.
My bee gets exhausted because it was unexhausted. If it was exhausted, it would make me mad and I would come after her, but unfortunately it was exhausted. So that was a pretty good first move. My first move, I think I'm gonna take this bee here, exhaust him. And my speed is now 4, so I can move forward, but I'm gonna go over to this flower. Now when you go to a flower and pollinate it, you can pollinate any number of cubes up to your carry capacity. My carry capacity is 3, but I'm only gonna get 2 since there's only 2 on there. And if you empty the flower, it gets taken off the board, return to the supply. You mix them all up, mix them all up, mix them all up. You pick one. One you pick goes there, and then on the board you'll see that there's a number. That's how many budding cubes it gets. So this one in particular will get 2. Those go on there. Now you have a new flower that's gonna form. All right, now it is my son's turn. What are you gonna do there, big guy?
I'm gonna take this guy home so I can. Oh.
All right, don't forget to exhaust your card, buddy.
So
he exhausts his card. He moved his.
So I get another trait card. My speed is maxed, and my workers.
All right. So when he gets a trait card, he gets to pick either from one of the 3 that are up or one off the top. So I'll let you look at the 3 that are up.
Okay.
If I can get them off the table. And then you can choose one of those.
So, this is a hive trait. It says put a green pollen cube on one of your skill traits that have a green pollen, so I'll take that.
All right, that sounds like a good deal. All right, so you picked the one pollen. Now, since one was taken, one gets put in. The new one is you can put a black cube on your strength, and then you can continue on with any color after that. So that was like a 2-cube swing for you, big guy.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Beth's turn. What are you gonna do there, hon?
This happy little guy only gets a speed of what? 4.
Alright, so she moved in there. Don't forget to exhaust your card. Alright, me. What do I want to do here? That guy's exhausted, so he can't be used. Let's see. I think I might take, as you saw what I needed, just kind of messed me over by exhausting that guy. I think I'm going to run over here and pollinate it once, only because, as you see, I only need 1. So I exhaust that guy. And it is now Zach's turn.
I'm going to take these 2 off of here.
Alright.
Actually, no, I'm going to take this one off of here.
Okay. So you took that one, so this goes back to supply. Shake her up, shake her up, shake her up. You can pick a random one to put back there. Alright, it gets 3. Alright, your bee goes on that flower. Alright, what do you want to do, babe? Gosh, fast little bugger there. He's working the way home. Alright, me.
I'm going to exhaust this.
Oh, you have to do that next.
No, exhaust this card.
Yeah, that's an action, remember?
Oh, okay.
But, alright, I'm going to actually exhaust this to remove this budding cube because I want to see what this flower, oops, sorry, what this flower is. It is a white flower with 4 budding cubes, or 4 pollen cubes on it.
Oh, there it is.
So I am going to do that. And that was my action for the turn, so now it's Zach's turn.
I think I'm going to use this, which uses up my action, which it allows me to return the flower into the meadow to
from the
meadow,
yeah,
meadow into the supply, and then I gotta pick a new one
and put the same number of pollen cubes on it, or budding cubes on it. So, alrighty, hopefully that turns a better flower for you next turn.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is now.
Alright, what would you like to do?
Exhaust this to unexhaust one of my bees.
Should exhaust in that one. So I have one bee left and one card that doesn't do me a whole lot of good right at the moment. I know what I need, and I think I'm going to go after it. So I'm going to exhaust this bee. Take this one and go 1, 2, 3. Pollinate that flower, which will return it to the supply. Shaky, 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 and I will pick this one. So that replaces that. Gets 2 budding cubes on it. Thank you, Zach. They go there. My bee goes on the flower. Alright, Zach, you got any more actions, buddy?
I have one bee left, which is this one.
Alright, what are you going to do with that there bee?
I don't know. Take these.
Oh, I took all 3 of them. So that goes back to the supply. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Bee goes there. Or flower goes there, rather. 2 budding cubes. And then your bee goes back on. And you exhaust your bee, and that's that. Alright, Beth, what do you want to do?
Take this guy. 1, 2, 3.
Alright, so she moves hers over there.
Thank goodness.
And put a new one out. So 2 budding cubes. Alright. My turn. All my bees are exhausted. I have 1 ability left, and I might as well do it just to stay in. I don't need any of these trait cards, so they get shuffled back in. 3 new ones come out. So the new hive traits are: put a blue pollen cube on one of your skill traits that have blue pollen. Exhaust this card during the wind phase, and you can, if the wind would remove a final pollen from a flower, you return it to the supply instead of removing it from the game. And this one is whenever someone tries to make a strength attack against you, or whenever you make a strength attack against another bee, you can swap this trait with one of the ones they have. Alright, so it is your turn, Zach.
I think I'm just gonna pass.
Alright, he passes. Alright, she's gonna exhaust a bee. Where's the guys at home? Alright, she moves it closer. So it's my turn, and I have nothing left to do, so I pass. You passed.
Pass.
And you passed. Alright, so that's the end of the actions phase. Once the actions phase is done, we move on to the wind phase. So then she's going to roll the wind die, and we have 1 wind. As you see on the board, there's varying amounts of wind, and we remove every cube from a flower, or 1 cube from every flower within the 1 wind range.
This one died.
So he removed the last flower, or last pollen from this flower. So in that case, the flower actually dies and gets removed from the game. As you see, as the game has gone on, we've had a bunch of flowers get removed. Sometimes you actually get to the point where all of 1 color is gone, which makes things pretty tough for you. If for some reason you can't refill a flower into the meadow from the supply, the game would end and every one would lose, which so far has not happened, but it's there just in case. After the wind phase, like I said, you can remove 1 from every flower. You could also even help bud flowers with the rain. So that is the sample turn. If at some point, like, even though this is going to tell everybody what I need to win, but if I fill up both these traits, which is my workers, and my traits, then I would win the game. As you see, I still need 1, and I still need 4 to do that. What did you have to fill up?
Workers and speed.
Workers and speed.
I had to fill
She's really close.
I had to fill up speed and traits.
Oh, she had her what she needed too. You needed what? Speed and traits? Oh, yeah. You had what? 1 more turn almost. Well, you had 1 guy.
I almost had what I needed.
So, you would just continue to play until someone wins via their objective. The game lasts about 60 minutes, and that is how you play PolleNation. Thank you for watching.